Welcome to another episode of AI Product Leader. Every week we shine a light on what it takes to really join the AI world. Real conversations with real AI builders, founders, product leaders, AI experts, technologists, and everything in between to understand where the world of AI is right now and what it takes to build either products in AI or a career. Have a question or topic? Email us at support@aicareerboost.com and join in on the conversation. I'm your host, Polly Allen. I'm the founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping product leaders navigate the world of AI and thrive in AI leadership roles. And I spent my career at both the product management and software development sides of the fence in the software development world. I'm an ex-Alexa AI principal product manager, where I successfully launched the very first generative AI answers on Alexa back in 2020. And I'm super excited to welcome our guest this week. Matt Way has built a remarkable career in product management and agile transformation, driving impactful innovation at VMware's Tanzu Labs. With experience delivering over 10 products across 6 industries, Matt has transformed teams and modernized critical applications, boosting efficiency, user satisfaction, and organizational agility. Recently, he's been expanding his expertise in AI so he can further help organizations harness cutting-edge technology for real-world solutions. From improving government systems to accelerating Fortune 500 initiatives, Matt combines strategic vision and a hands-on approach and is shaping the future of digital transformation. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I was so excited to have you on.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. And how did you get all that information already? I didn't even get to introduce
Aha!
myself.
That's right. I do a little research on my guests, just so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's impressive. A lot. That is very well written. I should just steal that for my cover letter next.
Well, there we go. I can pass that on.
Yeah, there you go.
Fantastic. Well, we didn't really, though, get to dive into any of these amazing experiences. So let's start there. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background. And we can also talk about some of the stuff you've been working on at VMware as well. So please, I'd love to hear more about how your career started, how you got into product management in the first place.
Yeah. It's a long meandering way to get into product management. Like many people are asking on the forums, like, how do you break in? I did not expect to break into product management. I was originally on a path for public policy analysis. Obviously, that didn't pan out, seeing that I'm here now. Um,
Well, your
and I,
undergrad was in humanities, right? Like you had
yep,
started off. Yeah,
yep,
totally.
sociology and politics. And, looking for a job back then was like just after the 2008, crash. So it was really hard to get into anything. And one of a friend's friend had a startup here in Canada, and they were looking for people, and I was just like a lowly project coordinator to help onboard clients. And over the years, as it grew, we got acquired and moved into product management as they were looking for people. And I've been around a long time, know our products really well, know our customers very, very well because I deal with them every day. And I hear everything. I was like, okay, what if we did these? These are the customer things that they say they want and they would love. So that's how I got into product management. And, as the company grew, products grow, everyone knows this. Things get old, tech debt accumulates, right? You start hitting that curve of like, what do we do now? How do we keep the lights on and innovate? And that's how I first got into like really thinking about deeply being how do we lead these teams, right? We had teams in Canada, across the US on both sides of the coast, and also in China. So having to work with 3 different time zones essentially, and how do we keep everything moving, right? And it was at that point, one of the products we had was like student email filters. So, with COPA and SIPA, right, especially with those under 13, you've got to protect their data. But how do they talk to each other, like online? Because everybody's shifting towards Chromebooks and, iPads at that time. Uh, so how, so we're scanning for things that are going to pose a threat to themselves, their peers, maybe even the school, right? And we had these originally, it was just a simple filtering list, but you can probably guess how many false positives we'll get on those. Like the word kill comes up like 10,000 times a day, but it's just about to kill a mockingbird, like, right? It's the
Uh-huh.
book report.
All the double meanings. Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
And so we had an SLA of like we have to human review everything within 24 hours with, all like we had a majority chunk of school systems in the US and Canada. So you can probably imagine the hundreds of thousands of student emails we had to read through, right? So how do we reduce that, right? And at that time, machine learning was brand new, right? It was machine learning on Python, brand new. So it's like, okay, how do we like maybe take this and get a better result so our people aren't massively inundated with like this massive backlog of tickets that they have to go through. So that's where like the first foray into AI, and I didn't touch it for a while, right? Like it was the original machine learning. And then later on, I'll cut the story short, I joined at that point VMware Tanzu Labs, previously known as Pivotal Labs, by Pivotal, if people know that name still. They were the ones that created Pivotal Cloud Foundry, or now called
Oh,
Ubuntu
yes.
Foundry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they were going around and helping large organizations like move things into the cloud, becoming cloud native, or being able to choose which cloud you want, right? By having the Pivotal Cloud Foundry wrapped around your application, you can literally make some tweaks and drop it into different cloud providers. And so that's how I got there, and still doing that, right? Like helping large non-tech traditional companies think about how do we move, this 70s COBOL mainframe onto a cloud-based platform, whether that's our own private cloud, a mix between our private and public, or just purely on public cloud. Um, Thinking through that, and
It's such a technical challenge coming from, you came from this humanities background, then you're going through like, well, I've got the user empathy, I know how the products work. How did you deepen your like technical knowledge to get into like cloud migrations and things like that?
gosh, yeah, a lot of people ask me that because, yeah, I don't classify myself as a technical person. I still don't. I think what really helped is all those experiences, like working with that team, having to learn about machine learning and Python, thinking about how do we scale this, right? I had an opportunity base. I sat right behind the developer who was coding this. So when we do planning, stand up, whatever, all I had to do was just turn around and be like, hey, I'm thinking about this, right? I had this conversation with the customer. They had this problem, or I'm seeing this with our a ticket agent team, and they're telling us, hey, we're seeing this amount, like we're seeing a quick influx, a spike, right? Like for whatever reason during these times throughout the year. My assumption are these, and here's the data to back it up. How would you solve for it? And then we would go through, his technical architecture or the way he's thinking about architecture, and then I would go in and say, but what about these edge cases? How does that architecture or that really change when you deal with these edge cases or extremes, right? We have extremes in both directions, super high, super low. Um, and it's conversations like that which help me understand the technical side better and be able to have that conversation better with developers. And I think that's missing a lot of the time these days. Not to, get totally off topic on AI, but we often say we work in cross collaboratively, but that oftentimes I find at least is just tossing requirements over the wall from us. Or like architecture is tossing things like, oh, we're doing it this way, and then we're like, but that doesn't make sense from a user perspective. Like, you want them to do what? Click 3 times in this hidden like submenu?
That's right. Yeah, it's a combo of I don't know if it's post-COVID that people are just more used to like, oh, we're collaborating online, so you can't expect me to actually have a back and forth with someone. But we lose that richness of deepening our understanding of both sides. Like both parties do, right? Like I want my developers to have a little more empathy for the customer in the first place, as well as I want my PMs to that when you were explaining how you're working with that developer, it was like this is a case study and exactly like I'm not dictating the solution. This is how PMs should be working with developers, being able to facilitate and have that conversation. But you don't need the data science or computer science degree to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of times people have the assumption, right? Like, I have to know exactly what they're talking about. It's okay to say, hey, I don't understand the term you just used there. Can you please explain it to me like I'm five, ELI five, please? Um,
And when I always
Assume I
explain to
know
people too,
nothing.
I'm like, I have a master's in computer science, and I frequently said, okay, so what's that term? Like, there's new terms all the time. You can't let the FOMO or the imposter syndrome stop you from asking, right? That's when you lose out.
Yeah, and I think to bring this sort of back onto topic here a little bit, there's just so many tools now, like AI tools that can help note taking, or you can just like double click and be like, hey, what does that mean? Or what was it? Gemini 2.0, the multimodal stream thing
Right.
that they just
Yeah, where
recently
they can
came
like
out.
you can screen share with as a model now.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. I mean, think about the how fast new PMs can learn, or even just seasoned PMs can learn a brand new domain within like a day. What was it usually like 3 to 4 months before a PM that was said
It's
industry
really,
wise to
yeah,
really be
it's really
ramped up.
ramped up. Yeah.
Now it's
And
probably
now you're
like
like,
a couple days, a week,
right, to
maybe.
you can fake out these people you might be afraid to go bother and ask, the questions you maybe feel dumb asking. And like get the first stuff out of the way, and show up more prepared. Now I still hope people will still interact and co-build like shared mental models. Like that's the activity. We're like, oh, this isn't happening anymore. I hope this doesn't replace it, right? But I hope it emboldens people to do it more.
Yeah, yeah. Especially like, we can't 100% trust everything it gives us back, right? Like that's what, that's the AI is just giving us a prediction, right? Of like, hey, what's the most likely outcome? And again, it's just modeling after human relationships. So what that means is like for us as humans, we still need to rely on each other to be able to drive the right data input so that when we use these, AI basically rubber ducking tools, right, to tell us, hey, what is this? We get the right response back as we talk to our peers and say, oh yeah, right, that's the right answer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. Yeah, so continuing on the AI vein, you've been deepening your knowledge in AI. What are the kinds of things you've been building in with AI now?
Yeah, so just over the course, I created an AI tool that basically helps me in my personal um, work on like keeping my own like portfolio or investments in check, right? Like there's stuff you have in ETFs, you just put it there, you don't think about it. But then there's your personal like, stocks, you kind of your pet projects, right? That you need to look after, and it's there. I can enter in whatever stock symbol I have and get the latest news of it in the past week, what analysts are saying, what are the target high and low prices, and what's their outlook for the future, right? To help me make a better understanding and judgment. Because you know how it is. If you go, on your, Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, or whatever, there's crap ton of articles you need to read, and you have to
So
click
much to
through all of them.
synthesize. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just way too much data. And if you have anything more than 5 stocks, even, right, that's going to take you hours and hours of work every week. Um, and maybe not even every week, let's say a month, right? That's still hours and hours of work. So if we can do that and just give me a summary that I can read in 2 minutes, I can make that quick decision. That's already a huge leg up for me just to stay ahead of the curve and make sure I don't, bankrupt myself by accident.
Totally. And going further than, oh, I just put this content into Chat GPT, you were actually building tools where you're like, hey, let's set up this workflow. Can you tell us a little bit more about what like a user would get out of this at the end of the day?
Yeah, at the end of the day, they would be able to have their watch list, right, in there. So let's say you have these 5 stocks, and you really care about them. You have them, it'll track the prices for you as any other services. All you can do is click into it, and it'll be able to show you the latest news, the synthesized headlines, the high and lows, right? And which analysts are saying that. Maybe you trust one over the other, right? As well as, okay, here's some risks coming up, or here's what they're saying as additional tailwind that will help push the stock higher, for example. And then you can easily once you see that, you can, okay, move on to the next one, right? And then you can, on your own time, decide when you want to buy or sell or hold.
Exactly. Go deeper. Awesome. So like a decision-making dashboard.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic. And now you're looking to take your new AI skills back to being able to help those large, maybe less techy organizations. Can you tell us about your latest initiative?
Yeah, so the latest initiative right now is I'm starting a new consulting group with some colleagues of mine from VMware Tanzu Labs. We've helped a crap ton, like you said in the intro, thank you for that, of organizations, Fortune 500, governments, to modernize their software or even finding product market fit with products they're building, and they're like, this is not working. Why is that? So we're gonna continue to do that, but also at the same time with AI now in the mix, how do we do that much faster? Traditional organizations, they would take what, 6 months, a year, 2 years to push something out. We Before AI, we were saying, we can help you do this in 6 weeks, 3 months latest to be able to push something out and find product market fit. With AI, this can be, done in days, right? Like we no longer need to just say, hey, ChatGPT, take notes for me, or like summarize this. It's more, or like create a persona for me as a product manager,
Right.
right? Like
That's right.
it is,
Yeah. So many
there's
product
so much
managers.
more.
Yeah.
Exactly. It can take so much more. It can do that, user research, user validation for you if you have, for example, like a market persona set up. You can ask it, use this tool, use the product, tell me how it is, like give me your feedback for it, right? And it can validate your assumptions as if you were doing a user interview with a live person. Not only that, right? Like thinking about your entire path to production, there are so many these large organizations where they have to have humans going through step by step at every gate, like ticking boxes off and manually doing. Like even think about your security, right? Like if anybody has to ship enterprise software, the compliance and security checks you have to go through. What if those teams, instead of having to manually test for vulnerabilities, right, or using tools to scan for it, it's built into your software, right, with AI to test all these things and even have team, AI red teams that will
That's
automatically
amazing.
try
Trying
to
to break
hack
in.
it for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you
Yeah.
have AI blue teams responding, right? And if that is part of your build pipeline, all of a sudden you can infinitely increase how fast you go through because all the team has to do is run these tools and they will be able to push the product with full knowledge that, yeah, we've tested this, right? And we obviously still want a human to double check it, but it's going to increase that speed so much faster.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
your
Being able to
ability
like,
to pull it back, exactly, yeah, your ability to pull it back and ship it again, right? If anything's wrong, it just makes it so much faster. And that's the thing, right? Like AI shortens the timeline for a lot of these things. If you're just using it to like make your PRDs faster, great. But that's not really going to help you win out in the marketplace there. It's about get speed to market, right?
yeah, 100%. And I think that's the piece people are missing about how product management is changing, right? That the role is not like, oh, we'll use AI to do your old role faster. It's like, no, we need you to do new things. We need you to check things instead of running things that can be done by an LLM.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was talking to another, alumni from the course, and we were talking about like, yeah, from his perspective as a designer, a UX designer, a researcher, he's like, I actually have to rethink how I think about prototyping. Because, prototyping usually you think about as like, like a clickable link, right? Or a clickable prototype on a screen, right? Like it's all fake. Or even before that, maybe it's a simple drawing or like notes on a whiteboard, right? And you move things around to like because you kind of know it. But with AI, all of that is like it's a working thing. Like it actually goes
Yeah,
somewhere. You can interact with it. You'll see data coming in and out. So what does that mean for design? I'm like, well, that's the same thing for us in product. It's like if I can do this, right? I don't need to wait for my design team to come back with that prototype. I can like do something really quick and say, hey, this is what I came up with this AI tool for what I think the user experience should be, based on what I've heard. Can you now add your expertise in and tell me like where we can improve and from an actual human perspective, right? And all of a sudden that's a lot quicker.
totally. It's a lot quicker, and it's interesting the people who are getting adept at this, they have these next level questions of like, ooh, how do I do this without stepping on the design team's toes? Like letting them know this is my hypothesis. Like I am open to feedback. It looks kind of done because it's a prototype that actually works. That it looks like I spent like months in my basement in my off hours building this, and that I'm really passionately attached to every piece of it. No, I really just threw this together pretty quickly in order to get feedback. How do I make sure that they don't think I'm coming for their jobs or like that we each have a lane or whatever? And that those are now like next level problems. Those are good problems to have if you're like
Yeah, that's a really interesting point there because we're in this weird phase, right? Like out of nowhere, with ChatGPT 3 was it that came out? That was the one that rocked the world, right? That was what, a year ago, maybe? 2
2 years.
years? Oh wow, okay, time
2 years.
goes by.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
Yeah.
feels like just yesterday that we're all talking about like ChatGPT 3. Oh my gosh, the world's changing. And we're in this weird place where like all the roles seems to have some more and more overlap. You know how we originally have, product design engineering. And then there's a little bit overlap between all of the three in the Venn diagram. Now it's just like all together. It's like, where are the lanes for everybody? Because it feels like we kind of can do a little bit of everybody's. Like, how do we now approach this very collaborative industry that we all work in? Of like, we used to rely on their expertise for this, but now it seems like their expertise is, it's not that it's getting taken away, it's something else can also do a lot of it, get 80, 90% of the way there. How do we now collaborate? Like, it's a brand new way of socially, like, how do we interact with each other and still
Exactly.
be
And
successful
decide who's
together?
got responsibility for this. Like, we still need someone to take responsibility. Like, if the build breaks, who do we blame in
Yeah,
GitHub?
blame the AI or whoever brought that AI model in. It was that guy's fault.
But like, there's like real repercussions for what these systems do. So someone, has to be take accountability for it. We can't just blame it on
Yeah,
the
exactly.
LLM.
And that's why like we still need to interact. We can't just like farm it out to AI, right? Like hopefully at some point, a lot of that will be taken care of and it's less and less of a burden on us. But for now, right, I think even if we get there, I think it's still prudent to have, you know, a human being with conscious thought going like, is this actually the thing we want out there? Like, really? Like some of the stuff we've seen out there, right? Like even, I mean, we're not perfect, right? But at least it feels a little bit safer, I guess, with a human saying, yes, we actually want this.
Totally, totally. And as you're pointing out, like it's not like this is the first time we have to think about protecting people, protecting children, right? And like, hey, what do these systems say? Like, hey, let's go through and have people vet the answers, right? It's just that non-deterministic behavior is happening at such a larger scale. That problem of figuring out how to vet it and keeping people in the loop at the right level and still being efficient. We're still
Yeah,
figuring it out.
yeah, yeah. And I think another good one is like in healthcare, right? Like think of all the advancements AI has helped discovering not drugs, sorry, the cures for a lot of diseases, right? Like they're making huge breakthroughs on like so be able to identify all these patterns that it would have taken the human like years and years to do, but it'll do it much faster. And that has huge repercussions, especially in the US on the healthcare industry, thinking about insurance, right? Like, okay, now what kind of data, like we have HIPAA for a reason, but should those laws be made with some exceptions for research purposes? Would
Right,
that
because
help?
of the benefit for humanity more than the
Yeah,
harm.
and
Yeah,
then that is like we can't get into that obviously, right? But like there is that discussion happening, I know, because I've worked on some projects or with some clients on that sector. Is like how much like are people A comfortable with sharing that? How much is it legally doable? And then three, like technologically, how doable is it? Because this is going to be a crap ton of data that, our, customers have. Let's say the first two were clear, they're comfortable sharing it legally, we're able to do it. How do we get that data in a place that is consumable and not too, inefficient to consume as a resource, right? And be able to scale out and be able to feed that to the drug companies who will then be able to take the data and actually make use of it, right?
right. Yeah, exactly. So the benefit from it. You'll have the folks. There are going to be people underlying who have good motivations. Some maybe who have more just like profit-driven motivations. It's really going to be interesting to see how all of that comes together. Obviously, Matt, you've got such a breadth of knowledge now in AI, and you're obviously going to be using it in your consultancy going forward to help more organizations who perhaps are still figuring this out. How did you get started when you wanted to make that transition for someone who maybe didn't know as much about generative AI in particular, to go to the next level?
Yeah. I think it was out of, to put it bluntly, like necessity almost, right? Like all my friends were all saying like we're using ChatGPT for like what I was saying, making our PRDs faster, writing our tickets faster. But it's like, okay, if everyone's doing that, what actually makes you stand out? It's like you need to be able to deliver some sort of product, right? Delivering an AI product is not that dissimilar from any traditional products we've been doing. It's just like we said, a lot faster, and you need to be able to keep up with that pace. So how do you do that? For me, in my learning style at least, is I just need to jump in. I need to get my hands dirty. And the course that you offer was great because it was all about like, okay, here's some general information, like some good background, here's some readings. Now dive in. Like here's some hands-on workshops, get in there, understand it, and troubleshoot, right? Like that's really the art of product management partly is to understand where things can go wrong and how do we solve for those as those come up. You can't predict the future, so how do we figure those things out while we're delivering something? And that is going to be the challenge, I think, for other product managers too, is like figuring out, okay, we're already struggling with tech debt and feature delivery. With AI, how this is going to be a lot faster, how are we going to balance all this, right? And the best way is to have that hands-on experience, be able to say, look, I did this.
Yeah. And actually getting it to work and then understanding why it didn't work and improving it. I think that's like absolutely, absolutely key. Fantastic. So if you had one piece of advice to give to newbies to AI, so maybe they're experienced product manager, people in the industry, they want to get started with AI and go beyond just using ChatGPT. What would you advise that they do?
Yeah, get your hands dirty. Join the course if you need to, or if you know people who are building something on the side as a side project or at work, you guys have some, education allotment, right? Whether it's going in the course or doing something yourself, right? Building a team with, your developer or your QA people, like how do we make something here that will make our lives a little easier, right? And then you can
Exactly.
put
And
that up
finding
on your
people to
own.
build with could be really helpful too, right? In those
Exactly. Yeah.
situations. Yeah, exactly. So it's not just you alone in a room.
Yeah. Yeah, no, hopefully not alone in a room. That sounds so sad. But hopefully you have a good group of people to work to do this with because it is a lot of fun, Like we get into the industry partly because it is a lot of fun to work with other people and have that interaction and build something together.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Matt. We have time for one last section, and that is plug. Do you have anything you want to plug this month?
Yeah, we'll definitely want to plug the new consultancy group that we're starting called Spring Labs Consultancy. Can give you the website and the LinkedIn. We are all people who come from VMware Tanzu Labs, Pivotal Labs, like I said before. And we've all helped, Fortune 500, government, and even startups in some cases on how do we, build products better.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, wow. You know how to get a hold of these guys. Get in early. I'm sure they're going to be very, very busy. Amazing. So, from my end, I'd love to plug we've got the free masterclass we offer from AI Career Boost, Path to AI Product Leadership. And we'll be covering all the skills you need to lead and succeed as a product leader in the AI era, how to go beyond just using ChatGPT to improve your own efficiency and actually build products and tools for others. That'll be coming up soon this month, so please register. It is free, and join our newsletter. So if you go to aicareerboost.com/interested, you can join our weekly newsletter, get early announcements for our monthly masterclasses, as well as discounts on our next classes that are coming up as well. Fantastic. Well, thanks again so much for joining us, Matt. That's another episode of the AI Product Leader podcast. Thanks again for coming.